So before I went to UCLA, I worked in the Hollywood industry doing multimedia, what they called multimedia at the time. And just became aware of a lot of things that were beginning to happen in terms of our using computers and technology and creating artificial explorable environments. And my specialty working for this one leading edge company was to help them figure out ways that you could somehow use knowledge of navigating actual spaces to create simulated spaces. And so then during that time I learned a lot about interactivity, about interface design, and basically how a person relates to and manipulates information on a flat screen. So it's only natural then for me to take some of those lessons and some of the questions posed by that and bring it into the physical environment as an architect. So I had this opportunity, the Southern California Institute of Architecture, for their opening, they commissioned me to use lights in their building, which is very unique. It's a long rail station freight terminal, so long array of lights. And so we placed lights, or windows rather, we placed lights in 81 of the windows. And Damon Seeley, who later became my partner with this new firm, Electroland, that I founded, used telephone hacker technology so that we could manipulate the lights with a mobile phone. And this is before smartphones or anything. You use the digits on a phone. But in trying to create an interactive work, we realized that everybody was walking around with this control device, right? And by using digits, we can empower people to access something from a building, to potentially have a conversation with that building, or in this case, to activate these lights. The project raised very interesting questions that persist to this day about the relationship of an individual to the city. Should one person be allowed to manipulate, once again, like the graffiti artists too, a large visual area? Who owns the visual rights to how things look? And it was a very powerful experience, but also certainly anticipated all the things that are now done with smartphones. And it was really amongst the first. So then we continued doing interactive works. The next formative project was to create an entryway to an apartment building where you walk across tiles that light up. And at the same time that you do that and create these patterns on the ground, those same patterns are replicated on the face of the building. So you're having an experience that happens very locally and in front of you, and it's very tactile, but at the same time you're actually communicating to the entire city while you did it. And that continued then to be a theme in the work of Electroland, is that simultaneous scale of working and doing something even with your fingers, but the larger ramifications of that. That naturally led to an investigation of how we would know what people were doing. We wanted to extend beyond buttons that you push and actually make the experience be completely intuitive. So then we got very involved in tracking technologies of every sort. I mean, there are like 10. So that we could know where people are and what they are doing, and then have buildings and spaces acknowledge what they are doing. And of course, all this has now come to pass. I mean, all these technology companies are trying to track us in every way imaginable to offer us services. They haven't quite gone to the extent, nearly to the extent that we did, of having spaces be responsive to you, but that will certainly happen. It's happening on a kind of pedestrian way, in the sense that spaces are a little smarter about what room temperature they might be, or the level of lighting, or what have you. But certainly, commercial interests are going to find ways to sell us things. So I have to say that while we were doing the work, it was very exciting to explore the possibilities. I think we saw at a very early point how nefarious all this could become as well. Someone has data about you, if they know where you are. maybe you don't want to be tracked, and maybe you don't want the door to open for you, and you know, basically live in what I call a push culture. You know, turn off the push button. Well, you can't.